Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on gender differences in education, looking at the rise of feminism. It's noticeable over recent years that females are achieving at a higher rate than males across all social groups. Regardless of ethnicity or social class, girls outperform their male counterparts, but this has not always been the case. Historically, girls underachieved in comparison to boys for a wide range of factors, including their socialisation, teachers' expectations of their academic ability, and the expectations that girls wouldn't pursue education but instead go into traditional gender roles such as being a housewife or a mother. But since the 1980s, there has been a dramatic increase in the achievement of girls, and one external or out-of-school factor proposed for these changes has been the rise of feminism in society, particularly the influence of second-wave feminism and the social changes that have accompanied that movement. But what was second-wave feminism? Well, the feminist movement has been influential at different times in the history of Western society. The first wave of feminism is often associated with the political changes of the early 1900s that led to increasing pressure for women to be able to voice their political opinions, culminating in pressure for women to be given universal suffrage, the same voting right as males. This period saw pressure groups such as the suffragettes and the suffragists push for changes in legislation to allow women to be seen as political equals to men, and this was eventually gained in 1918 for middle-class women and 10 years later for all women. Second-wave feminism describes the women's movements of the post-World War II period that looked for legal, social and economic equality with males, and this occurred from the early 1950s through to the early 1980s, with the women's liberation movement, changes to employment laws, greater freedom of women over their reproductive rights, and the growth of feminist sociology. One criticism of this period, however, was that not enough was done to tackle the intersectional nature of women's experiences, and this was addressed with third-wave feminism and the resurgence of feminist ideas in the early part of the 21st century, which is seen as fourth-wave feminism. This is closely linked to the growth of social media and the possibilities that this has presented for female empowerment. An example of this would be something like everyday feminism or the #MeToo movement. So how did second-wave feminism improve girls' achievement? Well, second-wave feminism changed attitudes to women, no more so than in the workplace. Industrial action by female workers at the Dagenham Ford plant to gain equal pay with their male counterparts was one example of the demands of feminism to gain parity with men. The legal changes, such as the Equal Pay Act and the Sexual Discrimination Act, had indirect impacts on girls in education. They could be seen as equals in the workplace, and therefore this motivated them to work harder and gain better qualifications and better employment. One aspect of second-wave feminism was promoting the values of employment, explaining to women that employment meant financial independence from men, and this acted as further motivation to perform well in education. Finally, one of the impacts of second-wave feminism was to change the way in which females were socialised into passive and submissive roles. As they witnessed their mothers in employment and pursuing careers and educational qualifications, each subsequent generation led to girls being socialised into being more assertive and dominant than in the past, enabling them to have high aspirations and being motivated to succeed in education. Evidence of the impact of feminism can often be seen through the application of social policies that have improved the position of women in society. Alongside work-based policies such as the Equal Pay Act and the Sexual Discrimination Act, the provision of part-time university degrees in the 1970s allowed women to balance their educational aspirations with their role at home and in work, offering many women a chance at education they may not have been presented with in the past. More contemporary policies such as the Equality and Diversity Act have also protected the choice of females to have a family and a career by offering flexible working, protection during periods of maternity or adoption or for IVF appointments, all of which provide women with options to balance their career and family, whereas in the past the expectation would have been for females to leave employment once they'd started a family. This has the knock-on effect of changing social attitudes to when women should have children, with many women postponing starting a family until their 30s, in comparison to their early 20s and the late 1970s. Second-wave feminism has also tackled gendered stereotypes with initiatives such as GIST, Girls in Science and Technology, and WISE, Women in Science and Engineering, being promoted to break down gender barriers in science and technology and offer additional help and support, enabling girls to fulfil their full potential through hard work and determination. Of course, you need to be able to evaluate the impact of second-wave feminism on girls' achievement And one of the criticisms of second wave feminism is it didn't recognise the inequality between women, and much of its impact was on girls of a white background, and it wasn't until later on that black and Asian women's concerns were addressed. Secondly, despite the impact of feminism, a gender pay gap still exists between males and females, currently 17% for all employees, despite girls achieving better qualifications than boys. Whilst it is closing, recent estimates suggest it will be nearly 30 years before the gender pay gap is closed. However, others would argue that some progress is better than no progress at all. Others would suggest that the glass ceiling is still evident as well, with only 7% of FTSE 100 companies having a female CEO. Both of these points demonstrate that whilst feminism has made great strides in equality over the past 50 years, there still remains a long way to go. That concludes this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on gender differences in education, looking at the rise of second wave feminism. Thanks for watching.